The day I graduated, my family left me at a bus stop with $60 a half-empty bottle of Gatorade and a good luck out there tossed through a rolled-down window. The sun was merciless, melting the pavement under my shoes while their car shrank into the distance. I remember thinking, this can't be real. Families don't do this. But mine did. I sat there with a backpack full of nothing and a head full of questions that would take 13 years to answer. Because when I finally saw them again, they didn't even know who I was. From the outside, the Blakes looked like the kind of family you'd see on a Christmas card, matching sweaters, wide smiles, a golden daughter in the middle. That was Natalie, the golden child. Perfect GPA, perfect hair, perfect timing to post every good thing online before anyone else could. And then there was me, Erica, the shadow cropped out of every picture, the backup plan that no one asked for. Mom liked to say I was independent, but what she really meant was unwanted supervision. She ruled the house with manicured hands and a smile that could slice glass. Dad was quieter. He'd clear his throat before saying anything that might sound like a disagreement. Most of the time, he didn't say anything at all. The night before graduation, we had dinner at a chain steakhouse off the highway. Natalie had just gotten into her dream college on a full ride, and Mom raised a glass to her like she'd just cured cancer. To Natalie, she said, "The one who makes us proud." I smiled because that's what I was trained to do. When Mom's gaze turned to me, it was brief obligatory, and to Erica for finishing. Everyone laughed, except me. I didn't know that would be my last meal with them. The next morning was chaos caps gowns, camera flashes, families hugging their kids tight. Mine stood at the edge of the parking lot like they were already halfway gone. When the ceremony ended, I turned around to find them. Natalie was taking selfies with her friends. Mom was checking her phone. Dad was talking to a man from his office. I waved. No one waved back. We walked to the car in silence. I thought they'd drive me home, maybe go for ice cream like the other families. Instead, we pulled into the bus stop off Route 9. The tires crunched against the gravel. I waited for someone to speak. Mom leaned across the seat, her perfume thick and sweet cherry blossom and distance. "Good luck out there," she said, pressing $60 into my palm like it was a gift, not a goodbye. I opened my mouth, but no sound came out. The car door slammed. The taillights disappeared around the bend. That moment split my life in half before and after the bus stop. After that, there were no more dinners, no more phone calls, no more holidays. Just silence. The kind that hums in your ears until you forget what voices sound like. I found a cheap motel a few miles away, the kind with flickering lights and carpets that tell stories you don't want to hear. The sign outside read, "Sunny Pines." There were no pines and nothing sunny about it, but it had a lock shower and a mattress that didn't ask questions. I lay there that night staring at the ceiling, thinking maybe being left behind wasn't the end. Maybe it was the beginning of something they'd never see coming. The first week alone felt like living inside a bad dream that wouldn't fade when the sun came up. Every morning, I'd count the $60 again like it might multiply overnight. It never did. The vending machine at the bus station became my breakfast, lunch, and dinner. By the time I found work at a gas station on the edge of Brookfield, I had $12 left and blisters that looked like maps of everywhere I didn't want to be. The gas station manager, Mr. Liu, hired me under the table for $8.50 an hour. I mopped floors, cleaned bathrooms, stocked shelves. He didn't ask questions, and I didn't offer answers. At night, I'd walk back to Sunny Pines, my shoes soaked from the rain, my clothes smelling like diesel and loneliness. The only sound in the room was the hum of the old air conditioner trying to breathe. One night at the diner across the street, I met Jo. She was the kind of woman who looked like she'd seen every version of rock bottom and learned to laugh at it. Purple streaks in her hair chipped nail polish sarcasm like armor. "You new in town?" she asked, lighting a cigarette even though the sign said not to. "Sort of," I said. She studied me, then smirked. "You've got that just fell out of my own life look. Don't worry, it fades." Jo became my accidental friend. We'd talk after shifts, sitting on milk crates behind the diner, Bruno, her three-legged dog, snoring between us. She didn't pity me. She just listened, and sometimes that was enough. Weeks passed. Then I met Caleb, a quiet man with calloused hands who ran a small wood shop near the edge of town. He came into the diner one morning, noticed the sketches I was doodling on napkins, tables, shelves, anything with clean lines and hidden strength. "You draw?" he asked. "Just mess around." He nodded toward the lines. "Come by the shop sometime. See if you can turn those drawings into something real." I showed up the next day. The shop smelled like sawdust and lemon oil. Caleb didn't talk much, just handed me sandpaper and told me to start on an old oak board. By the time the sun set, my arms ached, but something inside me had quieted. I hadn't realized how much noise pain makes until it's replaced by purpose. Caleb paid me in cash and sandwiches. After a few weeks, he taught me how to stain wood, how to listen for the grain instead of fighting it. "You've got patience," he said once, almost surprised. I laughed, but later in the bathroom, I cried. It was the first kind word an adult had given me in years. The phrase, "good luck out there," still echoed in my head, but it didn't sting anymore, it fueled me. Every time I heard my mom's voice in my memory, I'd push harder, sand longer, stay later. One night, Joe caught me sketching again. "You still drawing shelves?" she asked. "Yeah," I said, trying to figure out how to make something that stands when everything else falls. She grinned. "That's not furniture, kid, that's therapy." I didn't know it then, but that was the turning point the moment my survival became creation. I wasn't just working anymore. I was building a way out. Work became my rhythm, the only thing that made sense. Mornings at the gas station, evenings at the diner, weekends sanding wood in Caleb's shop. My hands toughened, my savings jar filled slowly. I stopped checking my phone because there was never anything there. No missed calls, no come home. Silence became its own language, and I learned to live fluently in it. Months blurred into a year. Then, Lena walked into the shop, a boutique owner from 2 towns over. She saw one of my sketches pinned on Caleb's wall. "Could you build this?" she asked. I almost said no. Then I said yes, even though I had no tools of my own, no clue if I could pull it off. 4 nights later, I delivered a pine shelf that leaned a little to the left but stood tall. Lena paid me $150 and asked for 3 more. That money felt heavier than the $60 my mom had pressed into my hand years ago. It had worth. Caleb started giving me space in the back corner of his shop. I taped a note above my workbench that said, "Break the cycle." Every time I looked at it, I worked harder, quieter, steadier. The shop became my church. Then, Marcus showed up, a local filmmaker who made short features about small-town creators. Joe had sent him my name without asking. He filmed me sanding, staining, shaping wood into stories. He called the piece "Hands Make Homes." It was posted online, just another local video, until it wasn't. Orders started trickling in. Comments piled up. For the first time in my life, strangers saw me and not as the forgotten one. That's when the first message came. From Mom. "Hey, sweetheart, saw your little video. So proud of you. You've always had that spark." My fingers hovered over the reply button, then froze. Proud. The word felt foreign, like she'd borrowed it from someone else's language. I didn't answer. 2 days later, Dad emailed family reunion, reunited and stronger. Would love to see you there. Attached was a flyer with smiling clip art people holding hands. I laughed out loud. Reunited and stronger, they'd left me on a curb like forgotten luggage. I printed the flyer and taped it to my fridge beside Bruno's photo. Joe noticed it when she stopped by for coffee. "You going?" she asked. Not sure. She leaned back in her chair. "You're not thinking about showing up humble, are you? Maybe." Liar. She grinned. Show up like the plot twist. That night, I stared at the flyer again. For the first time, I didn't feel small. I felt ready. Marcus dropped by a few days later. "If you go," he said, "don't go to prove anything. Go to show what they missed." I smiled. "Quiet power, right?" He nodded. "Exactly." The next morning, I stood in front of the mirror, hair tied low, white shirt pressed. I looked at my reflection and whispered, "Good luck out there." This time, it wasn't a curse. It was a promise. 13 years later, the bus stop was still there, same cracked bench, same leaning sign. But I wasn't. The girl who'd been left behind had turned into someone they'd have to look up to see. The limo slowed beside the park where the reunion banner flapped in the wind. The Blake family, reunited and stronger. I almost laughed. Stronger for who? The driver opened the door. Sunlight hit the chrome, catching every pair of eyes nearby. Conversations stopped mid-sentence. Kids froze with dripping popsicles. Then I stepped out. White linen, brown leather watch calm shoulders. Silence spread like a ripple across the grass. For a moment, none of them knew who I was. Mom's hand flew to her chest. Dad's plastic cup tipped spilling punch down his khakis. Natalie, perfect as ever, said my name like a question she didn't want the answer to. Erica. I smiled, slow. Hey, stranger. It was like tossing a match into dry leaves. Whispers caught fire. That's her Erica, the one from that woodwork video. I could see it click in their heads. The same woman they'd ignored was now the one strangers admired. Mom moved first, her heels sinking in the grass. You look different. I said. I grew up. She forced a laugh that sounded like glass underfoot. We're just so proud of you. Everyone's been talking about your success. I raised my cup of lemonade. Glad to give them something new to talk about. Dad joined in, trying to look paternal. Didn't expect you to make it, kiddo. I didn't expect the bus stop, I replied evenly. He blinked, color draining. Mom's smile faltered. The words hung there heavy and sharp. Natalie swooped in, as polished as ever. You didn't have to make it a statement. I didn't, I said. This is just who I am now. Her lips tightened. They never meant to hurt you. I know. They just didn't care if they did. That shut her up. Around us, relatives began circling, buzzing like flies around honey they didn't earn. We always knew you'd turn out fine, Uncle Mike said, patting my shoulder like he'd trained me himself. Guess we raised you tough, Aunt Pam added. I smiled without agreeing. Funny thing about memory, I said quietly. It forgets who left first. Then came Sienna. She looked exactly as I remembered from Marcus's old photos, flawless, curated beige everything. She carried a tray of brownies like it was an offering. Erica, what a surprise, she said brightly. Your aunt invited me. We met at a charity event. I told her how inspiring your story was. I tilted my head. Inspiring, huh? She nodded, eyes glittering. I just wanted them to see how far you've come. I'm sure you did, I said. The smile on my face didn't reach my eyes. People started taking pictures, phones out, flashes blinking. My story suddenly their trophy. The same family who'd left me behind now posed like they'd carried me here. I set my drink down slowly, deliberately. You know, I said, there's something poetic about this. Dad frowned. About what? About leaving someone at a bus stop and watching them arrive in a limo? No one spoke. A bird chirped somewhere, the only sound brave enough to exist. Mom reached out as if to touch my arm. Erica, please don't be dramatic. We just wanted to reconnect. Reconnect, I repeated. Like a plug you forgot existed. She flinched. I stepped closer, my voice soft but unshakable. You left me there with $60 and a bottle of Gatorade. You said, good luck out there, like it was mercy. But luck had nothing to do with what I built. Dad tried to smile weak and wobbly. Well, look how great you turned out. Maybe we did something right. No, I said. You just stopped doing anything at all. The wind shifted. Everyone felt it. The performance was over. I didn't want to scream or cry. I wanted them to see. The quiet confidence, the steady hands, the peace they couldn't buy or fake. I'd spent years sanding down every splinter they left in me until all that remained was strength. I picked up my purse. I should go. I've got work in the morning. Mom blinked. You're leaving already, I nodded. You didn't recognize me when I arrived. I figured I'd return the favor. A gasp rippled through the group. Natalie's jaw clenched. Dad looked away. Mom's eyes glistened, but whether from regret or embarrassment, I couldn't tell. I turned toward the limo. Behind me, the murmur started again, half pity, half gossip. I didn't look back. The driver opened the door. As I stepped inside, Bruno's bandana, Joe's gift, peeked from my bag. It made me smile. Through the tinted glass, I saw Mom touch Dad's arm, whisper something. They both looked smaller, blurred by reflection and distance. The limo rolled forward, engine low and smooth. The park shrank, voices fading to static. My phone buzzed once Marcus's text. "How'd it go?" I typed back. They finally looked at me, then added, and I didn't need to look back. Outside, sunlight spilled across the road. For the first time in years, the silence around me didn't feel empty. It felt earned. The limo hummed down the road, the air inside cool and still. I leaned my head back, eyes half closed, replaying the last hour like a movie I finally got to direct. No screaming, no begging, just silence that hit harder than any revenge speech ever could. For years, I'd dreamed of saying something grand, something that would make them regret everything. But standing there, I realized I didn't need to. The distance itself had done the talking. When I reached the shop, the scent of sawdust wrapped around me like home. Caleb was sanding a tabletop. Joe was feeding Bruno scraps from a paper bag. Both looked up when I walked in. Joe grinned. "So did they combust?" I laughed, shaking my head. "No, just melted a little." Caleb chuckled, wiping his hands. "That's the thing about rot. It looks fine on the outside until you cut into it." I went to my workbench, the note above it. "Break the cycle" was still taped there, edges curling from heat and time. I pulled a new sheet of paper from my notebook and wrote beneath it, "Done." Marcus showed up later that evening, camera bag slung over his shoulder. He didn't ask for details. He just set a cup of coffee beside me and said, "Looks like peace suits you." I smiled. Turns out it's my size. Outside, the sky dimmed into gold. The tools glimmered under the light, steady and patient, waiting for whatever came next. I stood in the open doorway of the shop, the last light catching the dust in the air like glitter. Behind me, the machines were silent, every surface built by my own hands. I thought of the bus stop of $60 and a backpack and smiled. They didn't recognize me, and that was the point. If you've ever had to build yourself from nothing, I get it. You're not alone. Hit subscribe and keep building your own story one piece at a time.